Bread is one of the world's most universal staples, yet the way it is prepared profoundly affects its nutritional quality and how the body responds to it. Sourdough fermentation and commercial yeast bread making may both transform flour into a delicious loaf, but the differences go far beyond flavor and texture. From a positive analytical perspective, sourdough is not simply old-fashioned. It is a biochemical process that enhances digestibility, increases nutrient availability, and stabilizes blood sugar, demonstrating that thoughtful preparation can make a familiar staple remarkably health-supportive. One of the most notable nutritional distinctions lies in phytic acid, a naturally occurring compound in whole grain flour that binds minerals like iron, zinc, and magnesium, reducing their bioavailability. Commercial yeast bread, particularly when prepared quickly with refined flour, leaves most of the phytic acid intact because the dough undergoes minimal fermentation. Sourdough fermentation, however, involves lactic acid bacteria and wild yeasts that produce an acidic environment over many hours. This acidity activates endogenous phytase enzymes in the flour, breaking down phytic acid and freeing minerals for absorption. Studies consistently show that sourdough bread can reduce phytic acid content by 30 to 70%, depending on fermentation duration, temperature, and flour type. The result is a bread that delivers not only carbohydrate energy, but also more bioavailable micronutrients. Digestibility and gastrointestinal comfort are other areas where sourdough shines. Many people sensitive to fermentable carbohydrates, collectively known as FODMAPs, find that long-fermented sourdough is easier to tolerate than commercial yeast bread. The extended fermentation partially breaks down oligosaccharides, fructans, and other short-chain carbohydrates that can cause bloating or discomfort in sensitive individuals. This does not make sourdough FODMAP-free, but it often reduces their concentration enough to improve tolerance. For people with mild digestive issues, this means a loaf that is both nourishing and less likely to cause discomfort, a real practical benefit beyond abstract nutrition numbers. Glycemic response also differs between these breads. Commercial yeast bread, especially made from refined flour, produces a relatively rapid spike in blood sugar due to easily digestible starch and minimal acidity. Sourdough's organic acids and longer fermentation slow gastric emptying and modify starch structure, creating a flatter and more gradual glucose response. This effect has been confirmed in both healthy individuals and those with impaired glucose tolerance. From a metabolic perspective, this means that sourdough supports sustained energy release, reduces postprandial glycemic stress, and helps maintain better satiety. For home bakers, creating sourdough that captures these benefits requires only time, patience, and basic technique. A starter, a living culture of wild yeasts and lactic acid bacteria, forms the backbone of the process. To build a starter, mix equal weights of whole grain flour and water in a clean jar. Cover loosely to allow airflow and leave at room temperature. Feed the starter daily with fresh flour and water, discarding a portion each time to maintain balance. Within 5 to 7 days, bubbles and a pleasantly tangy aroma indicate a healthy culture ready for baking. Using a mixture of whole grain and white flour can accelerate microbial activity and increase nutrient content, as whole grains supply more minerals and phytase for phytic acid reduction. Once the starter is active, a simple loaf can be made by mixing it with additional flour, water, and a pinch of salt. Allowing the dough to ferment for several hours or even overnight at moderate temperature maximizes phytic acid breakdown and organic acid development. Folding the dough periodically strengthens gluten without intensive kneading, while bulk fermentation contributes to flavor and digestibility. Baking at high heat for 30 to 40 minutes produces a crusty, aromatic loaf with improved nutritional qualities. Even partial substitution of whole grain flour, say 25 to 50%, enhances mineral content without overly dense texture, making the bread more appealing for everyday consumption. Practical strategies can further enhance sourdough nutrition. Using slightly coarser whole grain flours preserves bran and germ, which increases fiber, B vitamins, and antioxidants. Longer fermentation times maximize both mineral bioavailability and flavor development. Pairing sourdough with protein or fat-rich foods such as seeds, nuts, or legumes further moderates glycemic response and enhances satiety. Cooling and lightly toasting leftover sourdough can increase resistant starch content, providing additional benefits for gut microbiota. In summary, sourdough is more than a culinary preference. It is a nutritional tool. By reducing phytic acid, partially breaking down FODMAPs, and moderating glycemic response, it transforms simple flour and water into a food that nourishes more efficiently and is easier on digestion. Home bakers can capture these benefits through patient, structured fermentation and thoughtful ingredient selection, turning bread making into a functional practice rather than merely a cooking task. The result is a loaf that combines flavor, texture, and evidence-based nutrition, a vivid example of how traditional food science can enhance modern health.